Hey, y'all, it's Angie. I've recently picked up sewing as a hobby, and I had the idea to create a tool carrier to keep my tools organized and easy to reach when I need them. I thought this would be a fun way to get some experience in pattern drafting. I first started measuring my tools one by one so I can have a better idea of the size I needed. Initially, I thought I'd be making a bag or a pouch of some sort, but after some drafts, I finalized my idea to this, a scroll style carrier custom made for my tools. Oh god, kill me. I'm in the comfort of my home, guys. Sorry. But anyway, my first step after drafting my idea was to create templates out of craft paper. How I got the sizing for the main piece was by adding up the width measurements of every tool, imagining they were laid down the way I drew them out on my draft, then adding the measurements I had in mind for pockets that I wanted to incorporate, and lastly, I added some seam allowance. The final measurement for this became 49.5 centimeters by 33 centimeters. I definitely consider myself a visual learner, as in I need the information in my face for my brain to comprehend it. So here I'm making temporary pocket templates, since at this point I had yet to create an exact measurement of them, and you'll see what I mean. It's just so you can imagine where the pockets would be, something like that. Trying to recreate that. Like right here-ish. Might want to speed that stuff down a little bit. Kind of see where the vision is going. I knew I wanted a sturdy fabric for the outer shell, so I went for this beautiful denim fabric that I had on hand. I thought it would be a good idea since it's already a strong, durable fabric. This would be the ideal kind. You can probably use canvas, but I had this on hand. So use what you got. For this project, I'm just going to leave it because it doesn't matter. This is my own personal thing. I'm not selling it or anything. Oh, wow, beautiful. I'm loving that. What happens? I need something to hold this bottom part down. Scissors. I need at least... I forgot I needed to calculate a template for the inner fabric piece to create slots for my smaller tools, pens, and notepad. I created it in a way that I'd have to fold the fabric over before sewing. The final measurement for this became 28 centimeters by 22.5 centimeters. Seems very little, but at the same time that might be fine. I don't know. I'm starting to second guess myself. Well, actually, I should make it a little bit wider, I think. Am I overthinking this? I feel like I'm overthinking it. Yeah, I'm overthinking it. I'm overthinking it. No, actually, no, I'm not overthinking it. I do need to make it a little bit wider because right now I'm making it way too tight. This line actually needs to go this way a little bit more. So, in fact, I shall just extend it a little bit more. What was this, 26? Let's just add 2 more centimeters because I said so. Continue to put my sweet. And so this will be sewn in a way that it's like folded in half. I'm not too bothered. I realize that they're cut in different ways. I don't really care. I mean, this is gonna go like about here or so. So now that that's done, I can regroup and recheck. Pretend these are pockets because I have not cut those yet. So this is pocket space. This is this space. So this would go roughly here. And this would go a little bit there. They imagine that this is sewed down, so this would actually move down a little bit because of the way it's, you know, fold in and whatever. So this would go here. This would go here. Pens would go here. 1, 2, and then 3. Because ideally that's about how it would go. And this, I would fold it in like that. So actually that's not bad. That is gonna work. So far so good. Okay. I do consider myself fairly decent at math, but I'm only human. I had so many numbers in my head and somehow created a template in the wrong size. But thankfully I noticed it before moving ahead and cutting any fabrics with the incorrect template. The corrected pocket template measurement became 22.5 centimeters by 18.5 centimeters. This is going to be folded in half. So this one is technically junk. So I shall just X that out because this we're not using this one. This one's a no. Basura. Got our fabric again. This would be a good corner to cut into. Oh my god, I've been like on point lately. It's insane. I'll actually turn my fabric for this. I prefer to cut this way. Turn again. Beautiful. And must cut through the center. Beautiful. Got 2 of these. Plus the shell. So this is what I'm working with so far. Fusible interface is semi-optional because I'm using denim. I could probably slide without it, but I wanted to ensure it was extra strong, and this lightweight interfacing added just the right amount of structure I wanted. Here I am working on my pockets and slot fabrics. I am folding them right side inside and penning them on the seam to iron them nice and flat before sewing. I like to iron everything I need to all at once so I don't forget to turn off my iron. So I'll also be infusing the interface to the denim fabric here. A little tip I like to do when using this stuff is to make sure I use the steam setting to really help the fabrics band together. Also being very careful not to let my iron touch the fusible side of the interface because that will create a huge mess. Trust me, it's happened. After I'm done ironing, I'm going back to my inner fabrics and pinning the 2 small sides on each piece to be sewn, purposefully leaving the bottom side open. Once I'm finished with that, I trimmed off the excess edges and flipped them over neatly. You could iron them again at this point, but I just didn't do it because I had turned off my iron at this point, so I just finger pressed everything. With the inner fabrics prepped, I'm ready to begin pinning everything in place. I started off with my pockets because these are the ones with the least workaround. I could always move the slot section around as needed, which I did for this project. I marked the center of the main template and aligned the fabrics side by side in the middle, as you see here. I didn't want the pockets to flow over the template, so I pinned them in, just eyeballing at first to where I wanted them, and then repeated this to the other pocket, but measuring to make sure that they're even. I used so many pins because I really wanted to make sure it stayed in place when I take it over for sewing. Once the pockets were pinned and placed, I returned my focus to the slot fabric. So I brought my scissors and rotary back to figure out where would it be best placed. Initially, I thought I would be leaving a similar pouch slot at the end closest to the rotary, but then opted to leave it flat since I noticed it actually worked better this way. I pre-measured slots with my ruler and marker to make sure I had enough space for the amount of slots I needed, which I did, but I didn't sew the slots in place yet, not in this step. I only sewed along the edges of the fabric to keep them in place, as close to the edge as I could. I had a different ribbon in mind, but I couldn't find it, so I opted for this one, which I ended up liking a lot in the end. It is velvet on one side and plain on the other, and the velvet adds a nice touch against the denim fabric. I didn't record an exact measurement I cut, but I measured them now afterwards, and they reach about 32 centimeters each. So I would say add an extra 1 to 2 centimeters for a seam allowance when sewing them on. I don't think this was entirely necessary because I don't think this ribbon really frays, but I still use my liner on the ends just in case. I now have everything ready to start officially assembling. I laid my inner fabric on top of the denim shell, right side facing each other. Remember, this is important. I was ready to add my ribbon as well until I realized my inner fabric was actually a centimeter longer than the denim one. So I instead refocused on pinning all of the seams together so that I can trim the excess edge off neatly. Not only did I almost nearly forget to actually pin in my ribbons, but I also realized that I was going to leave the opening on the side that my ribbons were supposed to be pinned, which isn't entirely bad, but I quickly fixed this while in the sewing process by adding the ribbons in place and having the opening on the top part where it wouldn't interfere with any attachments. I trimmed the edges clean before carefully turning it inside out, remembering I left the pins in there, so I didn't want to poke myself. Then I finger pressed all around the new edge, fixing the corners, as well as pinning close the opening. I also removed some of the old pins to help flatten out the edges as much as I could to prepare for the next step, which is to top stitch all around, and this will help flatten it out even further as well as close off that opening. After that, I'm going to focus back on the slot section to finally sew it in place. The reason why I left this step towards the end versus when I sewed the edges in place is because I wanted the slots to be attached through both main fabrics to avoid having a balloon effect in the scroll. I knew if I didn't do it this way, I would end up sewing it again anyways because I'd want to reinforce the fabrics together, which also comes back to why I decided to interface the denim for extra sturdiness. And once that was done, I sewn in my pockets, which was a breeze since I left everything pinned in, and now all I needed to do was sew it all down. And then time for a thread cleanup before doing the very final step to all this madness. I was excited seeing it all really come together. I tested out the slots right away, and everything was looking great. My initial idea for the scissors was to have it sit in a sort of pouch, but at this point I didn't want to overcomplicate the design, so I figured the simplest method was to have these last tools in place just by using an elastic band to hold them in. I had two size options but opted for the thicker one just for more security. I just marked around the tools in the exact spot I intended to place them and then cut the elastic to size and sewn them in place. And then here you have it, my very own tool scroll. And I really enjoyed making this. It really taught me a lot, and I figured that it wouldn't be too complicated since I'm fairly familiar with, numbers, geography, or do I mean geometry? Sorry, I don't know. I'm a little tired right now. I would definitely do something like this again. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. See you on the next one.